Hello everyone. Welcome to Listen Easy English. Today, I want to share an amazing story about one of the greatest minds in history, Albert Einstein. Did you know that he was once seen as a failure when he was just a little boy? It's true. Join me on this journey to learn how he changed our understanding of the universe and how his curiosity led him to greatness. Albert Einstein was born on the 14th of March, 1879, in a small town called Ulm in Germany. He was born into an ordinary family. His father, Hermann Einstein, worked with electrical equipment, and his mother, Pauline Einstein, loved music and books. They were a simple family, but they had high hopes for their little boy. When baby Albert was born, people noticed something unusual about him. He had a very large head. His family joked about it and wondered, will this child grow up normally? No one could imagine that this little boy would become one of the most famous scientists in the world. From a very young age, Albert was not like other children. He was extremely quiet and did not speak clearly until he was almost 3 years old. His parents worried about him. Some people whispered that maybe something was wrong with him, and his family even called him the quiet one. But Albert was not slow. He was just thinking deeply about the world around him. While other children played loudly outside, Albert often sat alone, watching everything. He looked at birds flying, stared at the sky, and observed shadows moving across the wall. It was as if he was trying to understand how everything worked. Can you imagine a small boy silently studying the universe even before he could speak? When Albert was 5 years old, something happened that changed his life forever. His father gave him a simple gift, a compass. This compass is a small tool with a needle that always points north. When Albert first saw it, he was confused. He turned it left and right, but the needle always returned to point north. He wondered, how? Why? What invisible force is controlling it? This moment was very important in his life. He realized that there were forces in the world that people could not see, and he wanted to discover them. Years later, he said that this moment left a deep and lasting impression on him. As Albert grew older, he started school. But school was not easy for him. He hated the traditional classroom. At that time, German schools were very strict. Students had to memorize everything without asking questions or showing creativity. This made Albert very unhappy. He wanted to ask why. He wanted to understand things, not just repeat what he was told. His teachers became angry with him. One teacher even told him, "You are a disgrace. You will never be successful in life." Imagine hearing that as a child. Those words hurt deeply, but Albert did not stop asking questions. Even though he struggled with languages and some subjects, there was one thing he truly loved: mathematics. Math felt different to him. It felt honest, clear, and beautiful. He called mathematics the language of the universe. While other students saw homework as a chore, Albert saw it as a puzzle to solve. His uncle, Jacob, noticed his love for math and helped him. Jacob taught math in a fun way. He once told Albert, "Math is like a treasure hunt. Every problem is a clue." That idea changed everything for Albert. He stopped seeing numbers as boring and began to see them as an adventure. In addition to mathematics, Albert's mother wanted him to learn the violin. At first, Albert hated practicing. He thought it was boring. But slowly, music became a big part of his life, especially the music of Mozart. When he played the violin, his mind became calm. Music helped him think. Sometimes, when he struggled with a difficult problem, he would stop, pick up the violin, and suddenly, the answer would come to him. This is a surprising fact. Science and music became best friends in his mind. One helped him think, and the other helped him feel. While other boys played games in the street, Albert was reading books about science and philosophy. Philosophy means the study of deep questions about life and existence. He asked strange questions that even adults could not answer. One day, while walking home, he asked himself, what would it be like to ride on a beam of light? Just imagine running beside light itself. What would you see? Would time stop? Would the world freeze? This strange question stayed with him for years, and later, it became the foundation of his greatest discovery. But life became harder for Albert when he was 15 years old. His father's business failed, and the family had to move to Italy. Albert stayed behind in Germany to finish school. He felt lonely and unhappy. The strict teachers were even worse than before. The classroom felt like a prison to him. Finally, Albert made a bold decision. He left school without graduating. Everyone thought this was a disaster. People said he had ruined his future, but Albert believed something different. He believed that real learning did not always happen inside a classroom. So, he taught himself. He read science, studied mathematics, and explored philosophy. He followed his curiosity instead of rules. This was a risky move, but Albert trusted his mind. At the age of 16, he wrote his first scientific paper. It was not perfect, but it showed something powerful: potential. Soon, he applied to a famous school in Switzerland, the Swiss Federal Polytechnic School in Zurich. It was one of the best schools in Europe. He dreamed of studying physics there. Albert took the entrance exam, but he failed. He did not fail in physics or mathematics. He failed in subjects like French and history. Imagine that a future genius rejected. Many people would stop there and think, maybe I'm not good enough. But not Albert. Failure did not destroy him. It sharpened him. He studied harder and improved in his weak subjects. He refused to let one exam decide his life. Deep inside, he knew something important. He was not chasing grades. He was chasing truth. At the age of 17, Albert tried again for the entrance exam. This time, he passed. He entered the Swiss Federal Polytechnic School in Zurich. For the first time, he felt closer to the world he truly wanted. A world of questions, a world of science, where curiosity mattered more than obedience. Switzerland felt different from Germany. The schools were more open, and students were encouraged to think freely. This was exactly what Albert needed. But even in this new environment, he was still different. He loved mathematics and physics deeply, but had little patience for subjects that did not interest him. He often skipped lectures and studied alone. His professors were not impressed. One of them told him, "You are a smart boy, Einstein, but you lack discipline." Discipline means the ability to control yourself and follow rules. Albert heard this many times, but he kept following his own path. While other students prepared for exams, Albert asked bigger questions. What is light? How does time move? Why does gravity exist? These were not normal student questions. They were the beginning of a revolution in science. During this time, Albert met someone important, Mileva Maric. She was the only female physics student in his class. She was brilliant, serious, and deeply passionate about science. Very few women were allowed into that world, but Mileva fought to be there. Albert admired her immediately. They spent long evenings walking, talking, and discussing physics. They talked about atoms, energy, and the future. This became another important moment in his life. Two young students walked slowly under the cold Zurich night, books in their hands, stars above them, speaking not of romance at first, but of the secrets of the universe. As they grew closer, Mileva was not just his classmate. She became his partner and closest companion. Albert once wrote to her, "Together, we will conquer the world of science." But life was not simple for them. Mileva faced criticism for being a woman in science, and Albert struggled with money. Neither of them had an easy road, but they believed in their dreams. In 1900, at the age of 21, Albert graduated with a degree in physics. He felt ready to begin his life as a scientist. However, reality hit hard. He could not find a job. He applied to universities and wanted to become a professor, but every door closed on him. He faced rejection after rejection. His professors did not strongly recommend him because they thought he was too rebellious. Imagine spending years studying your dream only to find that no one wants to hire you. It was painful and frustrating for Albert, but he did not quit. Instead, he took small, temporary jobs just to survive. Finally, in 1902, he found work at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern, not as a scientist, but as a clerk. His job was to check documents and patent applications for inventions and technical designs. At first, he felt disappointed. This was not the life he had imagined. He wanted to be in a laboratory, not stuck with paperwork. But then, Albert changed the way he looked at his situation. He turned the patent office into his secret laboratory. During the day, he reviewed inventions, and at night, he filled notebooks with ideas about light, time, space, and energy. He asked questions that no one around him was asking. While the world slept, Albert kept thinking, can you imagine a quiet office worker sitting under dim light late at night, writing ideas that would change human history? In 1903, Albert married Mileva. They had a simple life, with no luxury and no fame. Soon, they welcomed their first son, Hans Albert. Money was always tight, and their apartment was small. Sometimes, friends told him, forget science, focus on your job. But Albert refused. He believed in his passion for science, saying, I would rather struggle for my passion than live comfortably without purpose. That sentence defined his life. Then came 1905, a year that changed everything. Scientists now call it Einstein's miracle year. He was only 26 years old, still working at the patent office, and still unknown. But in that single year, he published several papers that shocked the world. First, he wrote about the photoelectric effect. In this paper, he explained that light could behave like tiny particles called photons. This discovery would later win him the Nobel Prize. Second, he wrote about Brownian motion, proving the existence of atoms. At that time, many people still doubted that atoms were real. Albert helped prove they existed. But the third paper changed history forever. It was about the special theory of relativity. In this paper, he showed that time and space are not fixed, they are relative. This means they can change depending on movement and speed. This idea was shocking. From that theory came the most famous equation in the world, E equals mc squared. This equation showed that energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. It demonstrated that matter and energy are connected. This idea later changed science forever. Suddenly, Albert Einstein was no longer just a clerk. He became a man the scientific world could not ignore. Universities began calling him, and scientists wanted to meet him. His life changed overnight. At last, the world recognized what he had always believed. Curiosity is stronger than rejection, persistence is stronger than failure, and dreams are stronger than fear. By 1909, Albert became a professor at the University of Zurich. Later, He moved to Prague and then to Berlin. His name spread across Europe, and people called him a genius. But Albert remained humble. He once said, "I am no genius. I am only curious." He wore old clothes, ignored fashion, and focused only on ideas. He cared little for appearance and only sought the truth. In 1915, he completed another masterpiece, the general theory of relativity. This theory explained gravity in a completely new way, not as a force pulling things, but as the bending of space itself. This was a revolutionary idea. In 1919, British scientists tested his theory during a solar eclipse. They confirmed it was true. Gravity could bend light. The newspapers exploded with news of Einstein's theory proven. Overnight, he became world famous. For the first time, a scientist became an international celebrity. People who knew nothing about physics recognized his face. However, fame did not come without pain. Albert was Jewish, and during this time, prejudice was growing in Europe. Prejudice means unfair judgment against people because of who they are. Many people attacked him, hated him, and tried to destroy his work. Still, he continued to speak out for peace. He hated war. During World War I and later World War II, Albert used his voice to support peace and human dignity. When the Nazi regime rose in Germany in 1933, Albert had to flee. His books were burned, his name was attacked, and his life was in danger. He moved to the United States and joined Princeton University. He never returned to Germany. In America, he continued working and teaching. During World War II, Albert signed a letter warning about atomic weapons. Later, when atomic bombs destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki, he felt deep regret. He spent the rest of his life speaking against nuclear destruction. He wanted science to protect humanity, not destroy it. Even with global fame, Albert lived simply. He refused luxury and often forgot to wear socks. He loved sailing, even though he could not swim. He laughed easily and remained curious. Just like the little boy with the compass, he kept asking questions, wondering, and searching until the very end. In his later years, Albert became a symbol of intelligence and curiosity. He received many awards and honors for his work in science. However, he always remained humble. He believed that everyone should ask questions and seek answers, no matter how difficult they might be. He often spoke to young people, encouraging them to be curious and to follow their passions. He believed that curiosity was the key to understanding the universe. He said, "The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing." He also spoke out for social justice and civil rights. He supported the African American civil rights movement in the United States. He believed in equality for all people, regardless of their race or background. He once said, "Racism is a disease of white people." He was not afraid to use his voice for what he believed was right. On the 18th of April 1955, Albert Einstein passed away at the age of 76. He died in Princeton, New Jersey. But his ideas never died. His work changed physics, and his voice supported peace. His courage inspired generations of scientists, thinkers, and dreamers. Albert Einstein's story reminds us that greatness does not begin with perfection. It begins with questions. Albert Einstein was once the quiet child nobody believed in, a boy who spoke late, a student called a disgrace, a young man who failed exams, a clerk with no laboratory. But he never stopped asking, why? That is why the world remembers him, not because he was perfect, but because he stayed curious when others stopped. If you ask people what genius means, many might say it's someone who knows everything. But Albert Einstein showed us that genius is not just about knowing all the answers. It's about being curious and never being afraid to ask questions. When he was a child, many people did not believe in him. They thought he was slow and would never achieve anything. But Albert proved them wrong. He showed the world that asking questions and following your curiosity is the path to greatness. He once said, "The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing." So, what can we learn from Albert Einstein's life? Here are some important lessons. Embrace failure. Einstein faced many failures, especially in his early academic life, but he did not let those failures define him. Instead, he used them as opportunities to learn and grow. Remember, it's okay to fail. What matters is how you respond to that failure. Stay curious. Never stop asking questions. Whether you're in school, at work, or exploring the world, always be curious about how things work. Curiosity leads to new discoveries and innovations. Follow your passion. Einstein loved science and music. He followed his passions, even when others doubted him. Find what you love and pursue it wholeheartedly. Your passion can lead you to incredible places. Be resilient. Life will have its challenges, but resilience is key. Albert faced many obstacles, but he never gave up. Be strong and keep moving forward, even when the road gets tough. Value education. Education is important, but learning does not only happen in a classroom. Read books, explore new ideas, and continue learning throughout your life. Stand up for what is right. Einstein used his voice to speak out against injustice. He believed in equality and peace. You can make a difference in the world by standing up for what you believe is right. I hope Albert Einstein's story has inspired you to trust your curiosity, protect your passions, and keep moving forward. He reminds us that greatness is not about being perfect. It is about staying curious and asking questions. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the life of Albert Einstein. If you enjoyed this story, please consider subscribing to Listen Easy English. Share your thoughts in the comments. What creates greatness more? A. Natural talent, or B. Persistence and hard work?